float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
The Mirror brings you After the Bell in association with Betfair.
Welcome back to After the Bell. It has been a long 6 months in lockdown. I'm going to try and get through the rest of this show without mentioning the C word. But while the world around us has changed, we have stayed the same. I'm Martin Domin, editor of Mirror Fighting. Delighted to be joined once again by former super middleweight world champion George Groves and by boxing journalist Declan Taylor. We are all, of course, in our own homes. I'll leave that to the guys to decide whether that's a good thing or not. But both great to see you. Have you been well over these few months?
Yeah, I've been good. Like, there's not much going on, is there? I was looking forward to going back to a bit more of what should be normality. Kids going back to school, me pretending I've got a job to do. Hopefully that is the way it's going. Boxing's back, which is exciting. Not quite as I'd like it, but it's back at least, and hopefully more of it.
And what have you thought about the boxing in general, George? Has it made you realise you're glad you got out when you did? Not that it was necessarily, your choice, but if you were still boxing, you'd be frustrated, perhaps?
Yeah. I mean, this is the worst time in the world to be a fighter. If you're a fighter on the cusp of a big fight, and time is ticking, this is an important part of your career. If you're a fighter, just turn pro, and you need the bouts to get out and get busy, earn a few quid, develop your craft, gain the experience, or even if you're right at the very top, and you're in the big pay-per-view fights, and you're maybe a Sol Canelo Alvarez who has missed a few fights, and now he's got a headache of a big legal case pending. It must be the worst time to be involved in boxing, in sport, in hospitality, any of those sectors. So I'm glad I got out. Maybe I did get out quite at the right time. I can't. I've got that stress not to worry about.
Dec, we've seen Eddie Hearn's back garden. We've seen, of course, Frank Warren in BT and at York Hall. Overall, happy enough or impressed enough with what you've seen in terms of how boxing's responded?
Yeah, I think it's been really good. Most importantly, the fights have been incredible, and I don't know if that's just luck or coincidence or something to do with the whole situation, but there's been some humdingers like every week, even with no fans or anything like that. It's been brilliant. Also, we've been totally starved of anything, so you take anything you get at this point. But I mean, that fight camp little series every week, there was something to talk about. It was brilliant. I mean, it's going to get back to normal eventually, but I mean, they had fans and bears in Russia on Friday, so it's not that. I mean, is that normal now? I don't know. I don't know. I didn't even know. I thought Zoom was an ice lolly until about 3 months ago. Now I can't get away from it. So everything's changed, but it's still the same when they get in there, isn't it? It's just good to have it back.
Definitely. You mentioned Russia. We will start with the fight night on Friday. Umar Sadiq travelled to deepest, darkest Russia to take on Fedor Chudinov, a name, George, of course, you know well. He was stopped in the 12th round. He was up on one of the cards, made a good start, faded, as you might expect from someone who was in the 12th fight and stepping up considerably. Impressed enough with the performance, that given he had 2 weeks' notice, given that I suspect he wasn't paid much. It's a fight that, as I said, I mentioned before we came on, it does stress me out a little bit. I don't know. Has he learned much? He hasn't earned much. He ended up in hospital.
No, I disagree. I disagree with you. I think he has come out of that hugely with massive credit from everyone, which is nice, but not that important. But he would have learned so much. He probably didn't get paid much. But remember, this is a guy who got beaten by Zach Chelli, I believe, a few years ago. Rebuilt, went on his own, went on small hall shows, went and just got wins, not on TV. And then this came up and he took it. And okay, yeah, he could have decided against it. But the fact that he boxed so well and he started well, and like you say, up on one of the cards, it proves that he's up there. And I mean, with all due respect to him, nobody was talking about Umar Sadiq in that division really before now. And then everyone's talking about him on Friday night. And now he's back in the mix. I think he's done really well. And like, he's a very intelligent, astute guy. Really not your sort of typical athlete, I guess you could say. And I suppose that was shown in the decision he made to go out there. It was all a little bit sort of off the wall, wasn't it? It reminded me of like when George Jupp went over to Mexico and just boxed for a sort of a version of a world title out of nowhere. It was one of them sort of scenarios. And he did brilliant. It's a shame he got stopped. It's a shame he didn't see the final bell, but I think it was, the stoppage was correct. I think if he got to points and lost on points, that would have been the correct decision. Chudinov just a bit too strong and a bit too powerful for him, but yeah, he'll come back, and I think, obviously all credit to him.
George, as I said, he fought and beat Chudinov, of course, to win a world title. He's fought obviously a much higher level than Sadiq, still a player round about that level, but a tough task to go to Russia, of course.
I think it was good for Sadiq to go over to Russia, to step up, to that level and take a chance. I think he gave a great account of himself. He would learn a lot, as Dec said, from that fight. Shame for him not to get to the 12th round, and then with the way the cards were going, he would have lost a split decision, which might give him some motivation. But it's a tough time now in this world where you're not sure when your big opportunity is coming. You might not even know when you're boxing next. So you've got to stay in the gym and stay dedicated. And he's had this opportunity to fight for a former world champion. No doubt, I haven't got it written down, but no doubt there might have been some title on the line, some intermediate title, some status that pushes towards a world ranking. And he didn't quite pull it off. But if he takes them positive experiences that he's had fighting at this higher level into his career, now even if he has to drop back down to sort of a domestic type level fight, he's fought at a higher level, so that's only gonna give him an advantage. Really good for him. He done well.
And Chudinov still a tough customer?
He's got a head like a medicine ball. You just keep hitting it, and he just keeps coming. Deceptive power, as I say, very physically strong. He gave away a lot of height and reach at the weekend, but I say he throws them long loopy shots so well and generates so much power from him. He actually, I think, he's underrated in that respect. Like it's hard. Even when I was preparing for him, to break him down analytically, to assess his technique and how you're going to come up with some counters for it. It's hard to factor in just how tough and strong and how powerful he is. So I think he still do a job at world level, 100%, once he's up for it. And, no disrespect to Sadiq, this is Chudinov, who has fought at a higher level, fighting someone who's lost at a lower level. During lockdown, whatever the Russian lockdown has been, this might not have even been the best Chudinov that we see. So I think Chudinov's definitely still got a lot in the tank, and should be challenging for a world title, within the next 12 months.
George, what's it like when you obviously yours was a bit different because you stopped him in the end, but you got someone like that and he's marching forward a lot with his hands up, and so you can't really miss him, and there's a lot getting through. And I mean, even with your stoppage, it wasn't like he was going anywhere. He wasn't going down or anything like that. You were just raining down on him. So Sadiq had a similar thing where he was landing a lot, but it just wasn't slowing him down. And if anything, Chudinov just got stronger and got more into his groove. What does that do for you mentally when you're throwing like that and landing so much and not an awful lot's happening to the guy?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've had a few fights where you don't have a problem finding a target. You let your hands go and you're having an effect. You're hurting the guy, but you're not getting rid of him. I had a fight with this fella Froch once, and just punched him all night long, couldn't get rid of him. So you do get tired in the end. You definitely do get tired. It's not quite as fatiguing, maybe even mentally fatiguing as missing a shot. I know you boys will know that. You boys are in the gym throwing punches and missing all the time. So, we're it's but when you're having that effect, when you're landing, you are thinking at some point, I'm looking for something to give me that sign that this guy in front of me is starting to wilt, he's starting to fade. And it's experience of knowing when to then pull the trigger, because you don't want to gas out Someone who we're going to talk about later is Anthony Yarde against Kovalev, who has him buzzed, but knowing when to pull the trigger and finish, because if you miss that moment, you could end up more tired or in a worse state than the guy you've just hurt. So difficult, comes with experience, comes with self-belief and confidence, but it's never a nice night's work. And you never really want to be preparing for a guy you can hurt and they can just recover like that by in the space of less than a minute.
Sadiq was due to fight Lerone Richards maybe last month, I think it was, before Richards pulled out for personal reasons. I believe that would make more sense now for the British title to get that back on as soon as possible.
Yeah, very good fight.
Yeah,
I really rate Lerone Richards. Now that's a great step back in for Sadiq. He's gone up step. I mean, it's not even stepping back down, but it's a big fight. His profile's raised. I think that's great as long as Richards is fit.
I think that was kind of, maybe I didn't articulate my point well enough. I think if you look at Sadiq's record, until the other day, 2 fighters with winning records. I just feel like there's a better way to build a career than to go 11 fights, 9 opponents with losing records, and then straight in at that. I mean, of course, he comes out with great credit, but something else could have happened. So at the very least now, whether it's Lerone Richards or someone else, it has to be a better level of opponent. We can't be going backwards now.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's difficult. That if you make that jump, it's hard to come back. And now going in with, if he does get Lerone Richards next, that's a real tough fight. And I mean, it's the total opposite of what he's facing Chudinov, which is he's difficult to lay a glove on, whereas Chudinov will be standing there in front of you. And another loss, back-to-back losses, is totally different from just stepping up, getting beat, and then rebuilding. So, no, I hear mine. I agree. I think it's all just sometimes it's down to the opponent that, or the more experienced fighter who comes your way. If Chudinov had put him away in 2 rounds, then just like, that was a bit pointless and that was a mismatch. But the fact that he gave a real good account of himself and only got stopped in the last round, you're like, this is great, well done. You never know. You never know with boxing. Don't think it's too disrespectful to say that Sadiq was just an opponent for Chudinov. They've picked him. They've wanted someone who they were pretty sure Chudinov would beat and to get him to Russia and make a fight. So, but it's sometimes as a fighter, if these opportunities come your way, it's hard. You don't want to say no. But how could you possibly turn down a big fight if you're Sadiq? And you want to see what he's made of, see if he can rise to the occasion, and did give a really good account of himself. So no, I think it was probably definitely with hindsight the right decision.
Also in Russia, there was the sad sight of Danny Williams still fighting on at 47. Took on who I believe is a kickboxing MMA, something of a name, at least in that side of the world, who was making his professional debut. Williams lost. He's been incredibly active and actually does win more than he loses, but that says more about the opposition than it does him. Boxing is not without its stories of these fighters carrying on, never knowing when to stop. You can't tell Danny Williams to stop, because then he'll say, well, how do I make money?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to when we spoke about Nigel Benn making a comeback last year, to a lesser extent maybe, but, who are we to sit here and say how someone can or can't make a living or earn a few quid to put some food on the table? But what really the issue is how this is still allowed to happen by commissions and whoever else is in charge of handing out licenses and stuff. Obviously in Russia, you can turn up and they'll sort you out. You can get a fight if you need one. Not nice to see. The sad thing is that Danny Williams is well aware of what's going on. He did a great interview with, I think it's Boxing Social, where he said that these guys that are beating him on the circuit couldn't have lasted a round with him and sparring, but now he just can't see the shots coming, which is worrying for everyone watching, mostly worrying for him. And it was really not nice to see when he got hit. He sort of staggered back like he was on another planet. It was really bit harrowing to see, and you definitely don't want to see it again. But the sad fact is, if he wants to get another fight, he could get another fight. So it looks terrible on the sport. It looks like a lawless sport. It looks like anyone can turn up and do whatever they want, which is generally just about true, which is really not good. I mean, let's hope we don't see it. Let's hope he can make some money elsewhere. I know Dave Allen was on his Instagram saying that he wants to sort of raise some money for him or do something for these fighters that end up like this. But people have been saying it for years. Where do you even start?
You were talking about George Foreman off air, George, and of course he had the grill and went on to make plenty of money from that. But those are few and far between, aren't they? If you don't have a plan or you haven't managed your money well during your career, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, I think that might be more important and more realistic. Is to try and have the fighters, when they start, young fighters, about expectations and money management and stuff like that, because we don't boxers sign contracts with promoters, but they're not on a weekly salary. It's not like footballers or any other sport in that regard. You become a limited company in many respects, because you end up employing the people around you, and then you have to obviously pay them out of your purses. So sometimes it is real tough to walk away from a sport that you've dedicated to. You might have no other skills to earn money with, and when the opportunities come, especially in the heavyweight division, because a name travels even further, this is money that you probably won't earn elsewhere, or have to work in some ways harder for. But it's not good. It's definitely not good for the sport. It's not healthy for individuals. It's going to be impossible to police. Boxing is sort of the Wild West in that regard. You can go around the world and get any fight you want, really. And if you do have a name to carry it, then away we go. Mike Tyson is fighting Roy Jones, I think, still, so names, have value. Jones is boxing in Russia many times, I think Danny Williams might have even boxed in Russia a couple of times. I have to go through his record. So he's almost developed a name out there, which is of a value. The man who beat Mike Tyson, or one of the men to beat Mike Tyson. So, I don't really know exactly how to combat it, but you just really want to encourage young fighters to have a plan B and have life after boxing, because if they don't have anything to look forward to when boxing finishes, then they're much more inclined to just hang on in there far too long.
Yeah, William's 47 now, so we can only hope that this. Well, I hope that this is the end. If it's not the end, then that the end does come soon and not in too bad a fashion. Moving on to Saturday night now. Boxing's back when Anthony Yarde is screaming "Lions in the camp" after midnight. We've had this conversation before. It's another of boxing's problems we may never solve, but especially at this time of the 6-fight card, we should not be having main events on. I think it was 11:30.
Yeah.
I understand. I think what BT do is put the boxing on after the football. But the football was West Ham Newcastle, and with all due respect, not the biggest game. And in fact, it might not even be whichever game it was. But you can't, if you're going to showcase boxing, especially at a time when sport's not necessarily on all the time, you at least bring your main event, your co-main event forward and have it around 8-9 o'clock.
I mean, I was just sort of glad that I wasn't there. Martin, how many times have we been hanging around in arenas when it's empty, waiting for press conferences at 2 a.m? It's just like, you just think, why are they doing it? Why is there a 6-rounder at prime time, like 10 o'clock, 10:30 at night or whatever? Why? Earlier when you said, how are we doing? I was like, well, I've been better. I've stayed up watching Anthony Yarde, Dec Spelman until midnight. Like, it was just like, why are they doing it? What is the point? It's just so bad. You've got like, if you sit there like me and you've got your Twitter open, you've got hardcore boxing fans complaining about the product that they're being served. You're like, hold on a sec. These are people you're trying to sell this product to, and they're sitting here going, I want to go to bed. What are we doing? It's just like, I just don't get it. And especially in the current climate, like, you sort of understand it when it overruns. You've got 30,000 people you got to sort out in an arena. There's things going on, but it's like there's nothing. It's just like get 2 guys into a ring, have a fight, get them out again. It's really not that difficult to schedule. And it just meant probably the viewing figures probably went like as the later it got in the evening, because people couldn't be asked to stay up. It's just like boxing just doesn't help itself. And yeah, we've said it so many times. It's obviously never going to change. They must have a theory for it, but I just think it's bad planning.
That's the thing. The program on BT was always due to finish, I think, around 12:15, midnight 15. So I don't think they had any intention of that fight being on any earlier. But if you're Anthony Yarde, you're saying, hang on, I'm the name on this show. I want to be fighting 10 o'clock. Or can you not do that?
George probably knows better than both of us because he's been hanging around in dressing rooms waiting.
Yeah, and you don't really want to be hanging around in the all-call dressing rooms, guys. You
No.
In back there, like there's shoe cupboards that are bigger. Yeah, I mean, Yarde. If Yarde had to say, maybe he might have liked to box at 5 o'clock, and then he could have got 5 in the afternoon, and then he could have got home nice and early because he goes out whenever it likes. I think he might be a Frank Warren promotion type thing. I think he likes his shows to go late. Like obviously, there was a stint where he would have these stacked cards, where it could only go late. You couldn't possibly fit all these people in for fights before then, but they must have stuck with it. Yeah, obviously not wanting to compete with football, but main events 10 o'clock is a sensible time, especially if people are out in the pubs watching it, but the majority of people are probably indoors now watching the fights. So, yeah, a bit of a bizarre one. I mean, stark contrast as well from Russia the night before, which the referee didn't have a mask on. I mean, it almost looked like real boxing. I looked.
Neither did the Bears.
There were people there. The cornermen who have spent 6, 8, 10 weeks with their fighters didn't have to put a mask on for the corner when they were trying to explain to their fighter what they wanted to do. So here's my rant. I don't care what type of boxing's on, but how about we see it for what it is, and let the trainer, at least the trainer and the referee, not need for the overzealous cautionary face mask, which is I'm not a fan of. If the fighters can embrace, sweat, knock each other out, put their lives on the line, which more and more fighters tend to be doing now, there's always a connection to someone who has fought or knows or trained with or seen or been a fighter who's got hurt badly from boxing. Let's not worry about breathing on each other as well, because we'll get through that just fine.
What doesn't make sense with that is in the UK, especially like the fight camp and that, and at York Hall, they've all been in this bubble. So they've all been tested. They've all sat in their room for 24 hours or whatever, got their test back. None of them are infected with anything. So it's like, why are you now wearing a bit of plastic over your face? It's just like, I mean, it obviously must be some law, some rule, I don't know, but yeah, I agree.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the law is. I think it's the British Boxing Board of Control have put it in place, but it's a spectator sport. That's how boxing operates. You pay to see what you want to see, and at the moment, I think hardcore boxing fans are just happy that boxing's back in any shape or form. But if we're going to now widen this to get back to where it wanted to be, you can't put the telly on a Friday night and see Russia boxing looking not far off normal. Stick Aussie rugby on, in the afternoon, and everyone's absolutely normal, and then put the boxing on that night, and it's still got that sparring feel to me. I don't know if I'm just being too harsh or overcritical, but the Yarde fight in particular, you could hear the shots going in, and maybe there is a large part of the population that really enjoy that, but there might be some people that are also put off by it. I covered a I covered a fight for Channel 5 a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember the chap's name now, annoyingly, but he's from Love Island or something, and he stopped the guy
Idris
with a body
Virgo.
shot. Yeah, he stopped the guy with a body shot, and I've never in my life felt sorry for someone getting stopped with a body shot, but I actually felt sorry for this guy because it was like a spar because there was no one there, and he took a liberty. Don't take liberties in sparring like that with a body shot. So it's a bit bizarre. I don't really want this podcast to just be about moans, so I'm very sorry. But this is just my silent protest. If that let's get back to normal. Let's get back to boxing. You know, we don't have to have 80,000 in an arena or anything like that. It would be nice to have a few more faces in the crowd of the team. Because each fighter doesn't just have a two-man team in their corner. They'll have other people who are part of their setup and stable. They can be ringside. I'm sure these COVID tests now can get instant results. And if you're clean and you're fine, then away you go. So hopefully that is the next stage. That's why I was boxing so far. It's been great to come back, but I'm still plugging hard for something that's more reminiscent of what used to be the norm.
Yeah, I think it comes down. It's the same with any sport, football as well. Sometimes it's the occasion as much as what's actually going on, and maybe some people enjoy that occasion more than actually the actual fight or whatever.
I do think that's partly why they keep the shows go long, because people are in the bars then spending money, and someone's getting paid out of that. So there's an argument. If the main event's at 11 o'clock and the fight before that's at 10 or whatever, you've got an hour of solid drinking time, and then that lends itself to that occasion. But we haven't got that now. So what are they waiting for? It's just annoying.
Also, Dec, half the undercard will be on a predominantly ticket-based revenue purse. So they'll be in fights where they've got to sell a heap of tickets to pay for their purse, usually sometimes even pay for their opponent's purse, so that they can get on the undercard and to make the financials work. So them sort of fighters, they're probably just not fighting right now because it's the TV revenue isn't enough to cover the main event, a chief support, and the entire undercard. They're doing the best they can. Production's still not cheap. Production might even cost a little bit more because there's more, engineers involved, and there's more screens, there's more this, there's more that, and there's more procedures and red tape to go through. So, for the fighters who solely rely, even the small hall shows that are the non-TV, these guys have never fight, until we can get back to following suit from other places around the world that have, embraced live events in a safe way, of course. But other than that, these fighters are really going to struggle. Really, really going to struggle.
In terms of the fight itself, when it did start, Anthony Yarde, 6 rounds, comfortable, night's work, probably what he needed, given after the Kovalev defeat last year, he had that quick blowout in Spain, and then tragically lost his dad and his grandmother this summer. Basically, what he needed to set up the fight against Lyndon Arthur, hopefully in the next couple of months.
Yeah, it was a good performance from. Yeah, I'll go. Good performance from Yarde. Did what he needed to do. Again, it kind of did have that kind of spar feel to it, but that's usually when someone's coming back, after a bit of a layout, or just trying to get their eye back in, fighting down at a lower level than where they've previously been. And even to the point of the stoppage, when he dropped Spelman, it was like, okay, it's like almost like them spars where, okay, right, you've done really well, thanks for the work, but it's, you're starting to get caught a bit too frequent now. We'll stop it there. Good for Yarde to be back winning, and now finally, it felt like a long time coming, but finally the names are getting linked between Yarde and Buatsi, which I think is a fantastic fight. A real fantastic fight. So Exciting. I think the light heavyweight division is very good, very, very good, especially here in the UK. We've got talented fighters. I don't want them to miss the boat. I don't want too much of a period of time where they're not stepping up and in bigger fights. So no, good performance from Yarde. Done the job. He must be pleased with that, and then see when he's out next.
A good stoppage, I thought. I know Spelman thought otherwise, but if that continued, it just would have happened again. He'd be down again. And given he fought Lyndon Arthur not that long ago, he's done not well out of this situation, given he's lost both fights, but probably picked up 2 paydays he otherwise might have missed out on.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of exactly as expected in that Spelman is clearly, Yarde would say, and what's been proven at sort of a tier below Yarde. So that was the whole point, is that he would get out, shouldn't have too much trouble, but it's not just a body in front of him, and he could try a few things and get the ring rust off. It was ages ago since he boxed Kovalev. He came back in that weird fight in Spain, but then he's basically just been sort of waiting around. So yeah, the stoppage was just about bang on. It was a big shot right behind the ear, looked like a horrible one. It was weird because it actually came just off the back of a good shot from Spelman. And I feel that's going to be the case with Yarde. And we sort of saw it in Russia, that he's clearly at his best when he's a little bit put under the cosh. In those early fights when he was just cruising, sometimes he just looked a bit lackluster. He needs something to bring the best out of him. And so he got caught, and then he came back with a big one. I mean, George mentioned the Buatsi fight. That's obviously a great fight, but I really like the Arthur fight. I really wouldn't write off Lyndon Arthur in that either, because I think that could be really, really good. It's not a good style for Yarde, I don't think. And yeah, like I say, that will the sort of thing, hopefully, that brings that top level out of Yarde. I'm still a little bit unsure about the whole doesn't spar. I don't know if that's true. I can't really work it out, but it was a perfect night's work really for Yarde, and he back on the horse. The only slight concern, like George says, there's this big sort of flurry of light heavies in Britain, and we've seen it before where they just sort of circle each other for ages, and then sort of years tick by and they never fight each other, like Barker, Macklin and Lee, people like that, the middleweights. None of them ever got it on. They just sort of chatted about it for ages. Hopefully this whole issue, this whole sort of new normal might force these fights to happen a little bit quicker, because there's just not enough time to wait around. There's not enough money there. We need big fights to get people interested. So hopefully that will work in our favour as boxing fans, and we'll see the big ones. But yeah, Arthur Yarde's a great fight, and then the winner of that against Buatsi is just perfect, really. So
Yarde is 7-1 on with Betfair to beat Lyndon Arthur, who is 4-1. So if you like Dec, and
4-1, that is
a bit closer.
That is a stonker. 4-1, yes, please.
You've heard it here first. And then should Yarde go on to fight Buatsi, he's 6-5. Buatsi with Matchner, of course, 4-6. I think I agree. Of course, we need to see those fights. But if you look at Joe Joyce against Daniel Dubois, which to be fair was going to be on pay-per-view, but Frank Warner said that has to be in a full O2. Now that's a pie in the sky. So that fight's not happening this year. If that's what he's saying, and I would imagine something like Yarde or Arthur against Buatsi will be the same. We should see Yarde, Lyndon Arthur, I would imagine. But anything bigger than that, I think you're looking 2021, maybe even into spring, summer. I hate to say it.
You're not wrong. They're not big enough. They're not enough money to make pay-per-view, and I dare say the rights fees are not massive. So I'm guessing that no one's getting paid that much, really. So why would they? Why would they go into a big fight like that? So I guess time will tell.
Also on that card, Denzel Bentley, Mark Heffron, a unanimous draw. I don't know when the last time I saw one of those, to be fair. That was an eliminator for the British middleweight title. So chances are they will do it all again. Fair result, Dec? A lot of people thought Bentley had enough. I did get the knockdown.
I mean, you say about the unanimous draw, which is weird. Even weirder, it was a 10-rounder with a knockdown and we got a draw, which is even more strange. It means that doesn't happen very often. I mean, it was a close-ish fight, but I thought Bentley he outboxed Heffron at times, particularly in the early stages of the fight. Just looked a bit slicker and was landing, obviously got the knockdown. There was a lot of time where he was retreating onto the ropes a bit, but that was obviously just his style. And doesn't necessarily mean that he's losing those rounds. It just means that that's what he's doing, and he's retreating on the ropes, tucking up. It's not like he's he's eating a load. He did get hurt at one point. Personally, I have Bentley winning the fight. Not a massive stream up about a draw, but I'm not complaining because it means we'll get it again. So yeah, good. And the thing is, that was at 10 o'clock or 10:30, whatever. So that's magic. That's what you want. That was a main event time for a fight in terms of trade fight, a main event trade fight. So yeah, good fight. I think Heffron got a little bit fortunate getting the draw in my eyes, but yeah, very, very good level. I mean, that's what we all talked about and we all expected, and it absolutely lived up to it.
And really a perfect fight for both guys, John. I know Heffron lost to Liam Williams, but other than that, both perfect records. And you could argue, of course, Heffron coming down a bit. But these are the fights. Again, if you look at the records, for most of their career, have been fighting guys with terrible records. When they're asked to step up, they do. And they both prove that they're of that level, which now they should, again, never go back from.
Yeah, I think this is the time where, as Dec said earlier, there'll be more and more domestic fights, because it's probably just so difficult to bring in and isolate, and the expense that goes with bringing in a foreign opposition. So more and more British fighters are fighting each other. Usually these fights don't take place because they cost more and they're built around ticket sales, which you can't do at the moment. So that's why Joe Joyce versus Dubois has to be at an O2 Arena, because if it's not, that's upwards of £1 million plus gone from the fighter's purse, So unless they're going to sign in for fixed purses, and the promoter Frank Warren is happy to take a massive loss on that show, because you're only really counting on pay-per-view revenue, it's tough. But it's great that the domestic guys are fighting each other. Heffron, good fire, back down. It was a great fight, and I think we might see a few more of them.
How would there have been a circumstance if this had happened in your career where you would have accepted significantly less money for a fight that you could argue was 50-50 in the case of Dubois against Joyce?
I don't know. So there's, for example, Anthony Joshua needs to have a fight at the beginning of the year, and it's like you can fight and you're going to earn, instead of earning $10 million, you're going to only earn $3 million. But if you don't fight, you earn nothing. So do you want to fight for $3 million or not? That's it. That's up to the individual's choice. But if it was a 50-50 fight and you're not going to get the money that you otherwise would have, or possibly in the future could get, then no. I think why not? Why not just wait it out a little bit? If you're Joyce at his age against Dubois is probably thinking, well, the longer this goes, the better. Not necessarily that Joyce can be over the hill by leaving it a couple of months, but there will be that anxiety that Joyce wants to fight and get on and get as much under his belt as possible because he's significantly older. Dubois must feel at a real young age that time is on his side. I hope that the fighters are always pushing to get the maximum value out of each fight that they can, especially this sort of fight, which is a big fight. It's a fight that's been spoken about for a couple of years now. And I think it's probably best to wait until the arenas are open again. There might be people at the top of the food chain that know more than we do already about whether that's ever going to happen or not, or whether that happen next year when flu season's over in the summer. But even so, if it means an extra £1 million coming your way for a fight, then you're worth waiting a few months for it.
Yeah. Well, that is our review of the weekend's action. Next up, we'll take a look at what's making the news in boxing. So one fighter who looks unlikely to fight this year is Canelo Alvarez, not because he doesn't want to, because he's involved in a lawsuit with DAZN and Golden Boy. The long and short of it is he signed a deal, $35 million per fight, I believe, regardless of who he fights. And it would be fair to say he may have taken advantage of that at times. The Rocky Fielding fight, maybe. But now DAZN are putting the foot down and they have a list of premium opponents they want him to fight, including Gennady Golovkin, who, of course, we all want to see that trilogy. But at this point in time, it's not going to happen. They do seem, however, to turn their nose up the prospect of Canelo fighting either Callum Smith or Billy Joe Saunders. I'm sure we would all agree those fights would be worthwhile. Well, do we agree? Are DAZN being unfair here?
Well, I think obviously the contractual dispute is the disagreement between what constitutes premium and what doesn't. And it's only one premium opponent a year out of the three. Well, hey, program's gone. I like it. Keep it there. I tell you what, that is not a premium canvas. That is the other one of the year. But there's this argument that what's premium, what's not premium, and only one a year is supposed to be premium. But the problem is you've got non-boxing people in DAZN and the broadcaster who are more interested in subscribers, what drives subscriptions, what's going to appeal to the masses, and then you've got the boxing people who think what's premium. Okay, it's a legitimate world champion at super middleweight like Saunders or Callum Smith, and it's like, well, no one knows who Callum Smith is, or few people know who Callum Smith is in America, so that's not premium. But Khabib is, or De La Hoya is premium. So that's the argument, and it's like, if it's not tight, if it's not cleared up in the original contract, I don't know where they're going to go from here. And then so Canelo's like, well, I want my money because you told me 11 fights I get 365 million. I'm here, I'm ready to fight. And they're saying, well, you're not sticking to your part of the deal because the boxer you're fighting isn't premium. So it's just 100% vague. Depends on how you. It's relative. It's just like boxing judging. It's just bound to fail, basically. And what it does mean is you've got Canelo. It's a bit like what George said earlier. You've got a boxer in the prime of his life, waiting around, ready to fight. And let's not forget, make no mistake, Canelo would fight anyone. He's not scared of it. He's not ducking. He's not trying to pick easy opponents. He just wants to fight. He's ready to go. But DAZN are worried. I dare say, just like everyone else, they're probably up against it financially. Although saying that, streaming service probably one of the few, or one of the sort of industries that have done well because everyone's sat at home watching streams. But it seems to be under some sort of pressure, and they need to think about where they're going to get all this money from, and they want some subscribers. And that seems to be a problem. I just don't know where we go from here. I don't know who gets paid, don't know who's in the wrong, who's in the right. All I know is that Canelo's not fighting.
I mean, I know DAZN couldn't have predicted this situation, but if you're going to give a fighter a guaranteed sum for that many fights, I feel like they were a bit naive in the first place.
Yeah, that was why everyone gulped when they saw it. It was like, what? You're giving him all this money up front. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And everyone knew it, and Canelo knew it, and Golden Boy knew it, and that's why they signed it quicker than they, as quickly as they did, because they were like, what? That is what they, and everyone thought, hold on a sec, they're not going to make 365 million quid back on subscribers from Canelo fights. Like, it's not business model, but they're obviously doing it slightly differently. But, and then all that it takes is a pandemic, and then the pressure's on, and no one's spending, and everything else. And suddenly it's a big, big problem. And it's a big problem for Canelo. It's a big problem for his fans, and it's a problem for boxing because really he's the biggest name in the sport.
George, can you sympathize with Canelo?
Yeah, definitely. I think the word premium opponent, like, it's so ambiguous to put in a contract. It's been put in there, I feel, for a row to take place later, for lawyers to, I don't know, make a few, millions of dollars. So I don't know Canelo, but he comes across as the sort of fella who would not let himself get bullied into a situation. And maybe, he just, the DAZN haven't quite figured out what to do with him, because who are the opponents, like, apart from Gennady Golovkin, who would be the premium opponents that they're talking about? Because they've got, if he's done an 11-fight deal, half of them have got to be premium. So I don't know. I don't know if it's more world title fights, and it doesn't matter who they are. He is, as you say, I think he's the face of boxing right now. He's pound for pound the best fighter in the world. He's the biggest draw. but we want to see him fight, and we want to see him in good fights, real fights. I don't want to see him fighting any MMA fighters or any celebrities. I don't want him to fight Donald Trump or Kim Kardashian or anyone else who might drive subscription. I want to see him in real fights, testing fights. And I'm sure he does too. Like, he's good. He'll go down as he'll be a Hall of Fame. He'll be, one of the best fighters to lace up the gloves. But knowing him, who he'd want to be remembered as the greatest fighter of all time. And you can only do that if he's in the biggest fights and the best fights, fighting the best guys. That's why he went up to light heavyweight to become a 4-weight world champion. Super middleweight, he picked up the regular version of WBA. I'd like to see him win a full, or what I deem as a full super middleweight world title next. As a British boxing fan, you want to see the Smith fight. You want to see either the Billy Joe Saunders fight. I, again, don't think he has any problem with fighting either of those two guys. I make him a heavy favourite against both. But no doubt it is DAZN who just don't see the value in that. And with the setup, with the way the world is right now, Canelo boxes almost on the two weekends of the year every year. And when one's missed, there might be a little bit more to it. It might be a little bit more that ain't been put out in the general public's information. But I sympathise with Canelo. Who wants to hear how much money you're gonna get potentially in the future? Because as soon as you hear that you see that money as yours, you want it now. You then don't want later on to have to go to court to get the money that you feel you deserve. So that's the fighter's mentality, the fighter's view. It doesn't matter how much he could have signed for £35 a fight. He don't want that taken off him. It's $35 million a fight. He definitely don't want that taken off him. So I sympathise with him purely because what does premium mean and how many premium fighters are there out there? And is it just because they are adamant they want him to fight Golovkin and he just thinks, I've had that fight twice already. The third one doesn't motivate me. He might be, strong-armed into that situation. Don't know. Be a great fight. We'd love to see it. But more than anything, we just want to see him back in the ring fighting someone who's going to test him, or at least try to.
Well, it's difficult to see how this one gets resolved without going to court, but hopefully we will see Canelo back in action this year. That is all for this week, our first week back. I promise to sort my makeshift studio for next week, which actually is a quiet weekend in boxing, but we'll take a look at rising heavyweight star Efe Ajagba and then look ahead to what is a bumper weekend the following weekend. Thank you very much for joining us, for tuning in. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, please rate and subscribe to the channel. Everything helps. We're also now on an audio podcast. See you next week.